Welcome, everyone. Good to see everyone here tonight. Nice to see the uniforms and the families here. It's a great night to be the mayor. I can tell you that much. Under item number 1, we'll start with the item 10.3.4 as a staff report amendment to the budget. And again, we're going to welcome all of you that are here tonight. Welcome those that are watching from home. Thank you to our staff and council for being here tonight. It's a very important night. And we'll call this meeting to order, and everyone could rise for Roll Canada, please. And just a reminder, if we can make sure our cell phones are on mute, our pagers, of course, can be live. We'll make sure our firefighters are able to respond if they are needed. And we'll begin our meeting with the land acknowledgement. As we gather, we are reminded that the municipality of South Huron is situated on Treaty 29 land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. And as a community, we have a responsibility to honor and respect this territory's significance for the Indigenous peoples who lived and continue to live upon it, and whose practices and spiritualities were tied to the land and continue to develop in relationship to the territory and its other inhabitants today. In the spirit of reconciliation and truth, we acknowledge the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples on whose traditional territory we are meeting. And we thank you for that. And we turn to item number 3, Mrs. McColson, please.
That South Huron Council approves the agenda as presented.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries to 7. Thank you for that. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures at this time? Not seeing any. Thank you. And we'll move on to 5.1. Tonight, we gather to recognize and express our deepest gratitude to our brave professional volunteer firefighters who've dedicated years and even decades to protecting our communities. These patriotic heroes have selflessly placed themselves in harm's way countless times to protect all of us, our families, and even complete strangers. While others are running away from danger, you are the ones that are running towards it. Being on call 24/7 every day is a demanding responsibility that only the most elite patriot will choose to pursue while still balancing their work and family lives. We are a better place because of your loyalty. And of course, we are eternally grateful that your family shares that same passion. It's really quite admirable. And tonight, as we reflect on your years of courage, let us be reminded of the sacrifices each of you have made without hesitation. Although I'm not able to explain why you do it, I can tell you that I and the rest of South Huron are proud that you do, because life would be drastically different for all of us without each and every one of you and your families. We as a community need to continue to support our patriotic heroes, as the risks by not doing so are too many to contemplate. And when we consider that 85% of all firefighters across Canada are professional volunteers, we in South Huron are so fortunate and thankful to have the best of them. The members of council, staff, and members of the public, before I turn this over to Chief Becker, would you please join me in thanking these incredible patriotic heroes and their families properly? Chief Becker.
Good evening, Mayor Finch and South Huron Council. It is my great pleasure to be here tonight and present these awards to our very own South Huron firefighters. Tonight, we will present 11 long service awards ranging from 5 to 50 years of service. Unfortunately, a couple cannot be here to work or other commitments. Tonight, we're recognizing 5, 10, 15, 25, and 50 years of service. Not many firefighters complete over 50 years of service, and here in South Huron this year, we have 2. That's over 100 years of service in 2 firefighters. Those 2 firefighters today are still active, certified in driving apparatus, and most times are the 2 first guys to be at the station. Not only are we here to recognize our firefighters, but we're also here to recognize the families of our firefighters. These are the people who allow their family members to leave at the drop of a hat. They miss dinners, they miss hockey games, can be gone for hours on end. This is a truly special family, and we are blessed in South Huron to have so many families make up this great department. Excuse me. After the awards presentation, I will also be acknowledging some of our 2023 graduates that have completed their NFPA certifications. At this time, I would like to call on Deputy Chief Mike Herbert to announce our recipients. Each firefighter will be presented with their awards from Mayor Finch and myself. A photo will be taken with each firefighter and then with your family. At the end of the presentation, all recipients will have a photo taken with council, and then you'll be free to depart. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. The South Huron Fire Department would like to acknowledge the 2023 Years of Service Awards, 5 years of service. I'd like to call upon Marshall Jeffries. I would like to call upon Greg Geelan for 5 years of service, the South Huron Fire Department. Our last 5 years of service, can I call Nathan Bedard? Okay, so we're gonna go on to our 10 years of service, and I'd like to call Jaden Desjardins up. Another 10-year of service award goes to Angela Gould. Come on up. I'd like to call on Matt Miller for your 10 years service award. Our last 10-year of service award goes to Jamie Hodge. Unfortunately, he is not here tonight. We will make sure that he gets his certificates and awards. Okay, we're going to move on to 15 years of service. Can I call Brian Martini up? All right, so the 25 years of service, Jamie Huffman's not here tonight. Accepting the award for Jamie on his behalf is his son, Justin Huffman. Hold on there, Jim. Jim. So the South Huron Fire Department wants to recognize 50 years of service. That's a long time, Jim. Congratulations, 50 years. Thank you again, Jim Huffman. All right, we have one more 50-year of service award, and that goes to Mr. John Becker.
I also wanted to acknowledge the firefighters who have completed their certifications in the last calendar year, 2023. And I'm going to ask them to come forward to be recognized. Tonight we have Greg Geelan and Jeff Van Niekirk. Greg and Jeff completed their NFPA 1001, 1002 firefighter certifications along with their hazmat at the Elgin Middlesex Training Center. These firefighters were away from their families for over 200 hours of in-class training and fireground training. I want to acknowledge the dedication and commitment that they have put in and have become certified to meet our mandate from the province. So thank you guys. Another firefighter, Chelsea Britnell, she's unable to be with us tonight. She traveled to Alberta and completed her NFPA 1001, 1002 and hazmat certifications on her own over 16 weeks straight. Unfortunately, Chelsea flew out to Alberta this morning and she's at an awards ceremony and unable to be with us. South Huron Fire Department currently has 3 more firefighters working towards certification at the Elgin Middlesex Training Center this year and will be complete mid-June. Those firefighters are Marshall Jeffrey, who's actually in attendance, Cindy Oak, and William Riley Smith. South Huron also has 8 new recruits completing our in-house program prior to going off to do the certification, and they will be finishing up soon and moving to their stations, 6 for Dashwood and 2 for Exeter. So on behalf of everyone here, thank you for everything.
Okay, everyone, we'll continue with our meeting now. That's a great time to be a mayor and part of council to see that dedication. We're very, very fortunate to have that much dedication within our little community of South Huron. Moving on to number 6, we welcome the Huron Shores. Susan, how are you? Come on in. You've got about 10 minutes and please begin whenever you're ready.
So that was a hard act to follow. So I'm here tonight to Mayor Finch and Council to provide you with the 2023 year-end results. And 2023 was an excellent year. Scott, if I could have the first slide, please. I'm just going to do a little bit of a refresher because I'm not going to expect you to remember everything from last year. So there'll be a few slides that look familiar, but there are some numbers that have changed. This one in particular, the amount of budget we're dealing with, there's an additional $318,000 that's been added to that. So towards the end of the summer 2023, ourselves and a number of our sort of sister rural systems were all struggling with costs. I'm sure you will agree that costs went up in 2022 and then they went up again in 2023, and especially because we had to sign back our contract with Voyago on April 1st, 2023 at $7 additional per hour. So when you're looking at 7,800 service hours, that makes a significant difference. And as well, of course, cost of fuel has gone up and the cost of everything has gone up. So we have meetings throughout the year with MTO, and all of us were worried about our budgets. Making it through to March 31st, 2025. And MTO heard us and they said, okay, well, fine. We can top up your budgets, put in an application and let us know how much you need to maintain your service levels and make it through. So we did. So we asked for 318,000 and we got it. Hence that amount has been increased. Next slide, please. Brief refresher here, 2 buses, 4 routes, and 8 drivers. So the purple route is Route 1, that's the Sarnia to Grand Bend via Lambton Shores. The green one is Route 2, so that's Grand Bend to London and back via South Huron. Route 3 is Grand Bend to Goddard through Blue Water. And then Route 4 is Grand Bend to Strathroy through North Middlesex. And of course, the Sobeys Grand Bend is our hub where our buses meet up. Next slide, please, Scott. So our fares, we reinstated the $10 long distance fare last year. And just recently we had to increase our monthly pass to $80. We will increase it again in September. What we have found in 2022 and 2023 is an interesting breakdown in ridership, whereby although our feasibility study said that 73% of our rides were going to be long distance, what we're finding is that 53% of our trips are local and 47% are long distance. So when you're charging $10 for long distance and $5 for local, that makes a change in revenue quite significant. Additionally, the feasibility study anticipated only up to a 20% discount for any multiple fares purchases. And what we found is that the monthly pass, which had been $50 and then raised to up to $60, was still offering basically a 50% discount. So the rides were reduced to about $3.09. So that's a downward pressure on the average fare, whereby the feasibility study had predicted $7. We were actually looking closer to $5. On the positive side, we are looking at a more consistent transit system. We've completed more than 3,900 bus runs a year, and we're on time 72% of the time. That may not sound like a lot, but it actually is for buses, because buses share the roads with other vehicles and also are affected by weather. So for instance, if we have high winds in this area, our buses actually have to slow down for that because they can topple. But we are pleased to say that we're averaging 1,672 rides per month. And we have been responding to increased ridership demand. Last year, starting around July, we found a huge spike in the number of riders coming up from Sarnia into the area. And they were all coming up here to work. But it meant that our bus on that route was full before it even left Sarnia. And we had to get some buses from Lambton Elderly Outreach. And there was a local taxi company we roped into it to provide those rides. So these students are coming up and they are working throughout the area, starting in Forest. There's Forest Foodland, there's Grog's, McPherson's, coming through up into Grand Bend to the McDonald's, Tim Hortons, Colonial, and then over to Wendy's and McDonald's in Exeter as well. And actually even the Guardian Pharmacy. There's one student who has a pharmacy background and they've been having him work in their department. So that's only going to increase this summer. Additionally, we have summer buses again going through London to Grand Bend to transfer the load of passengers from our regular buses, so they're still available for our local residents and still meet the ridership demand. So we're having people coming into the area to work and to spend money. So that's all good. Next slide, please, Scott. As you can see, our growth is on track. Last year, when I stood in front of you, I said we're going to double ridership to 16,000 rides. And actually, we surpassed that. We met that goal in October and we reached 20,066 rides by the end of December. Our goal this year is 32,000. And when you see the next slide, you'll see that we're on pace to actually meet that number. Our goal for revenue was a little short. As I explained, we had our projection was based on the feasibility studies percentages of long distance versus local. And that affected our projections for revenue for this 2023. So we have revised that, and essentially the $5,000 difference was all explained by the percentage of difference in rides and the discount on the monthly pass. So we are looking to adjust that and compensate for that. And we're introducing advertising opportunities. And so we intend to meet our goal of revenue this year. Next slide, please. I love this slide because it shows really graphically the rise in ridership. So that all those yellow columns are 2023. Of significance on this slide, those light blue columns over on the left-hand side are 2024. So you can see they are already more than double the ridership in January and February of this year than they were January and February of last year. If that trend continues, we should actually exceed 32,000. I mean, I look at those columns and I'm almost half afraid. I'm wondering where they're going to go. As well as you'll see the back end of 2023, we didn't get the significant drop off that this area typically experiences in the fall, winter months. And so what that tells us is that people are using transit more consistently for commuting, for going to school, for shopping, for running their errands. And that's a really good sign, because what that means is there's already been a transition to using public transit. I was looking at the 2021 census numbers, and in our area, our combined area, there are over 10,000 cars every day used for commuting. So when we look at those kinds of charts where we're seeing the ridership is more consistent and higher, we can look at perhaps reduced environmental impact of vehicles on our roads, better air quality, lower costs in terms of running vehicles and getting to and from places. So it bodes well for the future. Next slide, please. So I took a look at ridership by year and by route. The purple bars are Route 1, so that's the Sarnia to Grand Bend. And up until 2023, Route 2 was our busiest route. Route 1 took over, and that's primarily from all the workers coming up into the area to work here. So that's, as you can see, it's a 275% increase. What we're still working on and what is not working quite as well is our Route 3 and 4. So that's Blue Water and North Middlesex. They still are very low in comparison. And so we're looking at that and going, well, maybe fixed route and fixed schedule is not the right formula for them. And I am exploring an on-demand process for them. So we would actually end up with perhaps a hybrid where Route 1 and Route 2 are fixed and Route 3 and 4 do on-demand. And that might be more of an answer for them. It would also provide us with an ability to extend our geographic scope. It wouldn't be as fixed. So when I say that, what I mean is somebody living in Dashwood who wants to go to Zurich on a day that's not a scheduled day would be able to do that. Or someone just outside our stretch, say, i.e. Clinton, is trying to get to Exeter, and I get that request quite a bit, they'll be able to do that through an on-demand system. So potentially it could increase our ridership for those routes and also make it fit people's schedules better. So if we take a look at the next slide, I dropped it down by route and bus stop usage. Apart from these bus stops that are outside our area, this is of course Route 1. So this is Lambton, and I got to put on my glasses because
Susan, just FYI,
Yeah.
you're at 11 minutes. Our procedural bylaws.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Our procedural.
Would you like
bylaws
to
is-
skip to, I have a
No.
base for your community?
If council is okay with you to continue on, that's fine. Is anyone
Okay.
Opposed? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Uh,
5 more minutes. How's that?
Okay, so very quickly, Route 1, the most used bus stops for us were the Forest Library at the Welcome Center and Kettle and Stony Point. Let's skip to the next slide, which covers Route 2. McDonald's, which was the new bus stop that we put in February 2023, has quickly become the most used bus stop locally, which I'm not really surprised about. It is at the top end of town. And as you know, there's a lot of employers up there. There's a lot of services. Second of all is the one right out here at Sanders. Also not a surprise because the library is here. And also it's the top end of the downtown core. Let's skip the next two slides unless you really want to see them. This is Route 4. And skip through to next slide, Scott. Okay, as I mentioned, we're looking at on demand for Blue Water and for North Middlesex. And then next slide, please, Scott. Passenger count by community. So if we take a look at this, you'll see Lambton Shores is sitting at 9,249 boardings, and South Huron is at 5,567. However, what I want to say is the Route 2 bus, that's the one that comes through South Huron. At noon, it changes to service Route 3 and 4. So if that bus was running all day, just up and down through South Huron, I have no doubt it would be equal to that number at Lambton Shores. And so if I could get my hands on another vehicle, we could make that happen. So just so you know, that's kind of on my list to do. If we skip through to the next slide, please, this kind of answers who's taking the bus. Initially, it was thought, oh, seniors and people on low income or who can't drive are going to take the bus. Well, what we're finding out is that what we have is a lot of millennials and Gen Z. And so when we look at that population for us, and this is based on 2021, the first chart shows the total count collectively in our area. So yes, seniors represent almost 50%, but almost 50% are millennials and Gen Z. And those two generations are your next up and coming. We're kind of like on the other end of things, okay? And count 2 is broken down by municipalities. So South Huron has 10,000 Gen Z and millennials, which represents 27% of the group population we're working with. And one note for those two generations, they do not look at car ownership the same way we do. They look at it as just simply an outgoing expense. And according to Rate Hub, car ownership is actually works out to about $1,300 a month. So they look at car ownership completely as a downside. They would rather spend their money on experiences and not things. So it's going to be it's going to look different for those two generations coming up. Very quickly then, next slide. What else have we done? Agency Day Pass. So for the social agencies, including the ones working with employer seekers, we have a $10 day pass, which provides unlimited travel on the same day. They can purchase those for their clients and to help the clients get to job interviews or appointments. We've introduced an additional flex stop down on Weston campus, which facilitates people being able to get off at that stop and connect to intercity buses that will take them to Kitchener and Toronto and Montreal. We introduced a few policies, the passenger courtesy conduct and safety policy and the security cameras were really put in place at the beginning of 2023, largely proactively, because if you remember back at that time, TTC was experiencing some violent episodes. So we thought we better have something in place before we had an issue. Our advertising policy in place so that we can accept advertising. And of course, outreach and marketing is ongoing. Our focus, obviously, for 2024, next slide, Scott. Whoop. Second last one. Increase ridership, revenue, awareness, and customer service quality. We have applied for a federal Rural Solutions Grant for $387,000 so that we are able to purchase transit shelters with the integrated solar lighting, benches, and bike racks. So we have 8 used ones. That's great, but we have more than 8 bus stops. So we're trying to provide more comfort, a more reason to get on the bus, and more security for people who are riding into a bus stop so they can secure their bike and get on the bus and continue their journey. And finally, the last slide I did want to cover with you. This one's going to look familiar from last year, and don't panic yet. I know you're looking at the price per person as being $10. We have had, as I said, discussions with MTO, and there's more advocacy going on. We are members of Southwestern Community Transit Association, which is a group of 8 rural transit systems where we have come together, and we have an executive committee that advocates at the provincial level for us. And they've had many talks with the ministers and with MTO about the issue that the gas tax funding formula doesn't exactly fit the rural situation. And I think they're making headway. So although this is the current formula, it may not be the formula we're dealing with for 2025. So yes, it's $10 per person based on the current formula after we have taken into account our real expenses, because this is based on 2023 updated expenses. But at the end of the day, we don't think that this formula is going to be in place for 2025. And I'll be back in front with you with hopefully good news that will change. I know there's couple of conferences coming up, including the AMO, which is towards the end of August. So there will be further efforts going on to get the MTO and the funding funders to understand that we're not the same as a big urban system. And yes, we want people to be able to get around, and they do too. So, it's at what cost and at what subsidy, because let's face it, a municipality, a lower tier government simply cannot have the money to provide affordable housing and transit and everything else that you're expected to do, right? And I know that Huron County was presenting to you just recently with increased resident projections. So I know there's going to be a lot of expected of all of our local municipalities relative to housing, and there needs to be more help to make that possible. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much for your time. Normally it's 10 minutes, but I think we had a good time invested well, because now I think a lot of questions may have been answered because of the extra investment we did with your time. Are there any questions? Deputy, go ahead.
Sorry. Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was a little skeptical when this started a few years ago, but I'm on board, definitely on board now. The electrical buses, has that ever been discussed, or is that kind of on board, or where is that at?
Actually, the technology is not there yet for a system like us, given the kilometers that our buses are traveling. There's not enough time in the day for them to actually recharge and to be able to be back out on the road. We actually just cover too much distance. For instance, the TTC or London Transit, they'll have a bus that will be an electrical bus, but they only run it up to say 200 kilometers. I mean, a bus coming out of London, coming up here is pretty well already done that before they've completed. And that's just, they haven't even completed one run. And they have 4 runs in a day, right? And I was told point blank, actually, by a supplier of electrical vehicles. He said, no, you can't go that route yet. It's just not there. I know your routes, you've got way too much distance to cover. We couldn't do it. So right now, gas vehicles will be our only option until that technologies move forward a bit more.
Great, thank you. Follow up?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Vaughn and then Councillor Mead.
Yes, thanks, Susan, for that presentation. That was really great, encouraging news. I wanted to ask you a question about the experience of increases on the ridership for Route 1 and Route 2. Route 1 obviously took off like gangbusters last year. And you also talked to us about potential for looking at Blue Water, Route 3 and potentially Route 4 a little differently in terms of on demand. And so as I was looking at these stats on the weekend, I was thinking, okay, well, what was it that happened to Route 1 in particular, because that's so huge. And I'm thinking it's maybe something to do with employment and summer people and coming up from the Sarnia area and the college, the Lambton College. Again, and then I'm thinking, what actually caused that to happen? Was there some kind of an economic drive or effort? Because I've heard a lot of conversation coming out of the Grand Bend area that we need to focus on bringing students to our Grand Bend area. And so I was wondering if, before we make on-demand thinking going on in Blue Water, was there something that actually happened to get the people from Lambton College to come north? That might be something Blue Water could do to bring people from Lambton College as well.
Right.
Long question.
Oh, but you're absolutely right. It was Lambton College students. I think the push was a combination of things. It was the work that Lambton College was doing with Oakwood relative to the culinary program. And then, their employment folks kind of were like, oh, well, there's, these jobs here, and then there's jobs at McDonald's, and there's jobs, and it just kind of took off. And those students were talking to one another. I was down there doing outreach, so maybe part of it's my fault too. And suddenly, like as of July, I started getting complaints from local residents of that bus is full. I can't get on it. And for 2 days this week, I haven't been able to get on the bus. I'm like, what? It did take us by surprise. We did not expect that, and it just grew. And we've even had like this February the 10th. I suddenly got calls from the taxi guy saying, oh, I've had to run up and down all day today with students because there's a new restaurant that opened on Main Street in Grand Bend, and they've been running interviews with the students, and they've been coming up. So yes, I think there is great potential for employers in Blue Water to realize there is a group of students or young people looking for work. And then it's like, well, what if they decide, oh, what about Fancher College? What
Yes.
about the other side of it too? Right? So it's something that we have to watch. I mean, obviously our average age up here is 49.9. So let's just, round that off to 50. We're not looking for entry level positions, but there's a lot of young people who are, and there's a lot of business up here who have vacant jobs that they want filled. So we don't want our businesses to have to cut back on their hours. Let's help them get the workers.
Okay, thank you for that
Welcome.
answer. Something to think about.
Yeah.
And Councillor Need, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Susan, for the presentation. In a similar vein, I was just wondering, you have the breakdown of the different demographics, but I was wondering if there was a breakdown of intention of ridership, whether we knew specific information about whether they were taking public transit due to employment or leisure or family or healthcare, and whether or not that data could be collected. Because I think that's something that we've discussed too when we've been talking about newcomers to our community and the transportation issues that we have within South Huron. Like ideally, we want people to move here and live here. But if you're a newcomer to the community and you don't have access to a car or a vehicle, so I'm just wondering if we have any of that information or if that information can be collected.
I think the information could definitely be collected, whether that's through a survey form, which we haven't done yet. We've been busy kind of responding to the ridership. I do know that Route 1 has been pushed by students coming in the area for work. Route 2 has been pushed by people coming up, the traditional London, let's go up to the beach kind of thing. And so to make sure that there was a regular bus still available for our local residents, we provided a beach bus, classic yellow school bus. But yeah, I think that data is important. I would like to have that data as well. I think it'd be a good planning tool for everybody. So I didn't mention it, but it's sort of on my list of things in the back of my mind to get that data for us all. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks, Susan, for the presentation. Just in light of budgets being tight and for an additional bus or whatever, I guess if the numbers stay the same and Route 1 and Route 2 are that much more than Route 3 and 4 for ridership, like 6,000 versus 215, is there a take that, and you mentioned you need another bus, or you could increase that ridership in Route 2, double it sort of for South Huron. Is there talk about canceling one of Route 3 or Route 4 and use that bus in Route 1 or 2? Where it makes sense economically for the whole program?
Yes. You're the first council to receive this presentation tonight. I will be going to Blue Water and North Middlesex. North Middlesex is on Wednesday. Blue Water is after Easter. I think their councils are going to look at those same numbers and go, I don't know if we want to spend $10 per each of these people so that they can have basically a cheap taxi. Could be the way they're looking at it. And so that's why we're looking at the on-demand, because this formula may not be correct for them, right? Given the demographics of their particular communities. So ultimately it would make, at this point, yes, more sense to pull that bus from those routes and run it up and down Highway 4 all day, just like Route 1. I don't want to make that, it's not my only decision to make, right? It's also those councils to say, yeah, it's not working for us. But before we give up on it entirely, we want to look at the on-demand route option for them. And certainly if I was looking at another bus, I'm looking at a grant. So we have been successful in getting some other grants. The Rotary provided us with a grant, and we've had a grant from Creative County. And we're looking at working with Lambton College to perhaps help share the cost of getting all those student workers up into this area. So there's options, but you're right.
Thank you very much, Susan. Any other questions? Great presentation. Time well spent for sure. Looking forward to more information as we move along, but a very important topic. Thank you very much for presenting
Well,
tonight.
Thank you for having me. If any questions do come up, I'm just an email away. Feel free to ask. And I have, other than the demographic data of every day of why someone takes the bus, we haven't asked them yet. But other than that, I do have all the information. Okay.
Great. Thanks again.
Thank
Susan.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Masuda Carlson.
That South Huron Council receives a delegation from the Huron Shores Area Transit regarding 2023 annual report as presented by Susan Mills.
And a mover, please. Councillor Vaughn, second by Deputy Mayor. Did I see your hand go up, Jim? Yep, thank you. And any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. Item 6.2, I'll welcome Ms. Cole. Come on down and feel free to begin. You have about 10 minutes, please.
Follow after all of this time, yes, yeah. So I'll just set my timer here. And I hope that if I go over that I will be given equal time, because I think this is pretty important for you people to hear. Okay. Thank you for taking the time to read the information on the agenda tonight. I won't be going over and reading all of it to you, but I will be submitting a similar document to the consultant as part of the public feedback request, okay? But I thought you needed to know some of the things that I've seen when I looked at that report. And I'll start with, I know you've made the comment about the benchmarking, but when I looked at the benchmarking and then I looked at table 5, I think it is, that has the costs for the comparable municipalities, I got very concerned because they have South Huron down for prime ice time. And I'm just focusing on ice time so that I can pare down on what are some of the misleading information that's prepared in that document. So the prime time is down at $138.05. Lucan is at $199, and Huron East is at $175 for prime time. The report does not give time for minor hockey or minor sports, but it does give time for the non-prime. So bylaw 70/2022 for Lucan reports prime time summer $176.83. But the table calls it $199. So you'll see in the report, it based your recommendations on these comparable municipalities, but the information doesn't match. The second one I pulled up, because I didn't want to pull them all up, was Huron East. So Huron East, it was bylaw 0022022. Prime time 166. Their table says it's 175.15. That was for both of the arenas done separately. Non-prime was called 110. The table says 118. The bylaw says minor hockey and figure skating with a contract is at $140 an hour. There's nothing on the table to suggest that, but the recommendation is for 160 in South Huron. So I kind of didn't bother going any farther with any of that. I just thought, okay, so we know that those numbers were put there for some reason. And that would lead me to think, is that why we didn't include Blue Water? When I looked at some of the data and the information, it says the requested project revenue for ICE is going from $299,000 to 570. So they want the revenue to be almost double by charging more for the ice time to meet the targeted cost recovery of 30%. In the tables, they suggested the comparable municipalities had a 23 to 24%. I don't understand where that would come from. So then I thought, okay, it's not clear what the cost is for ICE services, but 30% of 1.9 million is approximately $570,000, $70, 570. So it looks like the projection for the cost of the arenas or ice rental is $1.9 million now in South Huron. And the way do we fix that with 30% cost coming from the ice users is to increase their costs. Okay, so it's not clear if the cost analysis is based on 12 months of ice time, or is that cost, that 1.9, is that based on the 6 months that the people use the ice surface? Because they're not paying, they're not using that other 6 months. So who's paying for that six months? Because there's no programs in those arenas. As much as we talk about, we have karate, I'd like to see where that shows up on the projections, because I don't see it on the website. And yet it's referred to 2 or 3 times that we're going to start charging for karate. In the user fees that are charged to cover part or all of the cost of providing a municipal service, in many cases, a municipality user fees are set to recover the full cost of providing the service, the full cost of providing the service. So is that what the 1.9 is? Is that including the debt and the principal that the ICE people are now expected to pay for their 30%? Is that where that's headed? Or is it more about, gee, in order for us to get more debt, to go further in debt, we really need to increase our revenues. So the first place we're going to hit is those ICE people. And we're going to charge them $270,000 more than we did 2 years ago. Now we might say, okay, those numbers aren't correct. Okay, so if you're really sure that those projections are accurate, you might want to look at the FIR or the FIR for 2023. You know that in May of last year, you were awarded or given a reward or acknowledged for putting your FIR in place by May of 2023. Tonight, you're going to hear the actuals from the building department. So would it not make sense to get the actuals from the recreation or the ice rentals before we go ahead and figure out what the costs, what the actual costs are going to work for 23, before we project that it's going to be twice what it is, in order to validate paying all this money? So in the report, we also talk about using the FIR for the benchmarking of municipalities. And this is what really kind of caught my eye. So St. Mary's, and I provided those numbers for you now. It says that St. Mary's has a population of 7,200. Our population is 10,000. Okay. So it further goes on to say that the review is based on extensive research of municipal documents, including capital and operating budgets. So I think then the capital must be included in that cost. Bylaws, staff and consultant reports, maybe something like the new Stadia report, I'm not sure, and website materials, and similar sized municipalities. So when we look at those similar sized municipalities, if you take in North Perth, 13,000. Lucan, 58,000, 5,800. So, but then look at Blue Water and it's 8,000. I think it's more similar sized as is Central Huron and Goderich, than St. Mary's, Lucan, or North Perth. The other part that's very interesting is we have been promoting regional use of the arenas. So we can go to Blue Water, and I hope that our minor hockey and our teams get the idea that we do need to support more of them, because their costs are going to be way cheaper than what you are proposing. So if you don't get all of the ice time that you want for that price, why wouldn't you go somewhere else? Well, why wouldn't those A teams go somewhere else where they can get an extra hour of ice time? And then you'll be left with half of your ice time. Maybe that's what you want, so you can close an arena because you won't have anybody using the ice. I don't know if that's what the whole idea is, then that's what I would go for. But I'm hoping that you understand that part about comparable municipalities. You totally missed the mark when you did not include Blue Water. And you can say by similar size, it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. So the criteria is not there, as the table doesn't have the correct information. The cost analysis, we're not clear, again, if it's total cost, indirect cost, we skirt all around that. But we really don't know, unless some of you know. Do you know what it is that the FIR covers? And if you look at Lucan's, which it's kind of funny, you look at Lucan's and their cost recovery is low because they don't have the debt. They don't have the principal to pay off that's included in the cost of operations, right? So because we have high operating costs, I guess that's why we're planning on, that's what the whole piece is about, is increasing that number. Is the methodology, did it change from being recommended as increasing for based current cost recovery of 30% to benchmarking? Did that change somewhere along the line? Because are we benchmarking or are we using cost recovery? And if we're using cost recovery, is it for the direct costs or the indirect costs? And are we okay with increasing our recreation budget by 500,000 every year? Is there no thoughts of looking at how we stop those costs? But are we just going to look at this and go, okay, well, we'll just increase the rate. That's all we have to do. I'm sorry if that's offensive to some people, but I just find that I know my time's up and you're glad that I'm done. So I just want you to think about that and maybe get the staff to consider giving you the information on the FIR or the FIR before you go ahead and make some decisions that were based on missing information, misleading information, and misinterpretation.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Any questions for Ms. Cole? Team, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. I didn't expect any.
Just turn the microphone off. That'd be great. Thank
Oh,
you.
sure.
Thank you. Ms. Masua Carlson.
That South Huron Council receives a delegation regarding recreation costs in South Huron as presented by Maureen Cole.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries a 7. Thank you. No, number 7, no public meeting. 8.1, please.
That South Huron Council adopts the minutes of the public and regular council meetings of March 4th, 2024 as printed and circulated.
And a mover, please. Councillor McLeod Haggett, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you very much. Number 9 and 10.1, please.
That South Huron Council receives a report of Vanessa Colbert, Planning Coordinator, and Mike Rolfe, Director of Building and Planning, CBO, re changes to bylaw Z01 2024 Trident Baker for information, and that the amended bylaw for Z01 2024 be approved and that no further public notice is required pursuant to Section 3417 of the Planning Act.
And a mover, please, Counselor Neves, second by Counselor Oak. Any discussion? Counselor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm just give me 1 second here.
Yep, take your time.
Okay, so we're looking at amending the bylaw to include application of pesticides and herbicides. Which I understand makes sense from the perspective of we want good cropping and we don't want a lot of weeds to overrun that effort. But it goes on to say that this application would be done in accordance with normal farm practices. And I don't know what normal farm practices actually is. I'm more familiar with words like in accordance with provincial and federal regulations, but I don't know. So I'm asking for guidance from the collective farming community amongst council as to what that actually means. Or from
Deputy, or
staff.
we have a couple of normal farmers right here, so would you like to take that? Counselor Oak, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to put words in somebody's mouth, but there is a normal farm practices board that oversees if there is any situations where there's complaints about farming practices that occur between farmers and non-farm residents that oversees those issues. So that's where that terminology is used. There's a normal farming practice board that actually exists.
Does that help?
I did not know that. So yes, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy, you have anything to contribute?
Oh, Counselor Oak's correct. It does like noise, there's dust, there's a whole bunch of things that if there's an issue and a complaint, it goes to the board. So it's no different than any other board. So that's, yeah. It's a great thing because it takes both sides into consideration. Thank you.
Okay.
That's great. Thanks.
And just to follow up, it is a provincial board. So
There you go. Any other questions? Okay, not seeing. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries a 7. Thank you. 10.1.2, please.
That South Huron Council received this report from Mike Rolfe, Director of Building and Planning, Chief Building Official. We proposed limiting distance agreement between Great Lakes Family Farms, Inc., Mildred Desjardins, and the municipality of South Huron, and that the bylaw authorizing the agreement be given the required 3 readings at this meeting.
And a mover, please. Moved by Counselor Neeb, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries a 7. Thank you. 10.1.3, please.
The council receives a report from Mike Rolfe, Director of Building and Planning, Chief Building Official, regarding the 2023 Building Department Financial Report for information.
And a mover, please. Moved by Counselor Neeb, seconded by Counselor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries a 7. Thank you. 10.2.1.
That South Huron Council receives a report of Jeremy Becker, General Manager of Community and Emergency Services, Pumper Tanker Award, and that South Huron Council accepts the tender received from Carrier Centers Emergency Vehicles in the amount of $673,055 plus HST.
And a mover, please. Moved by Counselor Neeb, seconded by Counselor Vaughn. Any discussion? Oh, Counselor McLeod, hey, go ahead, please.
So just one question on this. Has the measurements been made of this machine that will fit in? I'm assuming this is the one for the Dashwood department?
Through you, Mayor Finch, yes, that is correct. The truck will fit in the Dashwood Hall.
Thank you. Any other questions? Counselor Oak.
just maybe the chief could give us an overview of the differences between the 2 tenders that we're looking at doing, not taking the lowest tender in this case.
Chief Becker.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Finch. The proposed truck by the lowest bidder was a stock truck. It's a 2022. And the truck that I've put forward for acceptance or for approval tonight has a lot of different options that were spec'd out. The stock truck is unable to draft from both sides of the truck. And it doesn't have the hose capacity and the hose beds, which was definitely something that we needed, but we do definitely need to draft from both sides of the truck. And this was just a single-sided truck. So this truck basically is identical to the truck that was purchased last year.
Chief, how long will that truck be in service?
Through you, Mayor Finch, this is a 30-year truck.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor? Carries with 7. Thank you. Next item, 10.2.2, I believe.
The South Huron Council receives a report of Jeremy Becker, General Manager of Community and Emergency Services, South Huron Rec Center Dehumidifier Tender Award, and that South Huron Council accept the tender received from Simcoe Refrigeration Limited in the amount of $129,023.50, excluding HST.
And a mover, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just I like the numbers. I know we had already cut out a significant amount in the budget previous to this, and then I see it's under budget as well. Any comments, Jeremy, of what you're seeing?
Chief Becker.
Thank you through the mayor. I think things are starting to normalize and come back to COVID costs or pre-COVID costs, sorry, and people are eager to do some work. So we're getting some really good numbers here these days.
Excellent. Any other questions for the chief? Not seeing any. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. Next item, please.
That South Huron Council received the report from Shane Timmermans, Manager of Transportation Services, retender results for replacement of the Huron Street Bridge structure number 3044, and that South Huron Council accepts the tender received from Vandriel Excavating Inc. and authorizes award of a contract for the replacement of Huron Street Bridge structure number 3044 in the amount of $531,219.10, including HST.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, second by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Councillor Oak, go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Don, just one, or Shane's on there, sorry. Hi, Shane. Just wondering if you could explain to me the difference between the cast in place and the precast culverts. Just knowing that when I look at the different bids, it's significant. It costs a lot more in the tenders that came in with both, offering both options, that the cast in place was considerably more expensive of a type of an option. Is it a better option? And it's only $2,000 difference than the precast first place. So just wondering whether we should be looking at the cast in place culvert.
Mr. Timmermans.
Through you, Mayor Finch. The precast culvert, there is some pluses on it. The concrete's made in factory and usually does come with a higher MPA than a cast in place. So the concrete can be captured in a controlled environment. A cast in place is out in the field and does take a little more time with quality control and testing. Both options are in their tender because some contractors only kind of specify in cast in place or precast. As you can see, some bidded on the precast, some did not bid on the precast, kind of a contractor's niche. Overall, to get us to our estimated 75-year capital asset for that structure, there should not be an issue over one over the other to achieve that 75-year capital asset.
Councillor Oak, follow up.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. I was just wondering when I saw the prices of the cast in place being more expensive and significantly more expensive for the ones that actually bid both. I just wondered if that was a better quality product. So no, you answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Timmons. Any other questions for Councillor Vaughn? Go ahead.
Yes, thanks for the report, Shane. Just one question. BM Ross, a short little paragraph here. They indicated a definitive start date has not been established, and I'm just wondering if that's important to our operational and capital project execution. I'm just not used to seeing a sentence like that.
Mr. Timmermans?
Through you, Mayor Finch. Once the tender gets fully awarded and signed, then we will get it a date set in stone. They just didn't want to definitely set a date. We have to do the work within the fish window. So the work will get done. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we are expecting to have this done during this 2024 year.
Mr. Timmermans?
Through you, Mayor Finch. Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Through you, Mayor Finch. Also, just another quick thing. Last year too, there was 3 precast structures that were completed within South Huron last year, and all 3 were highly successful.
Great, thank you for that. Any other questions for Mr. Timmermans? Not seeing any. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 10.3.2.
The South Huron Council received the report from Shane Timmermans, Manager of Transportation Services, retender results for replacement for 4 pickup trucks, and the South Huron Council accept the tender received from Huron Motor Products and authorize the award of a contract for the supply of 4 pickup trucks in the amount of $234,438.84, including HST.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Councillor Oak?
Thank you, Mayor. It's nice to see local dealership that was successful in being the lowest tender. In light of all the discussions we've had with procurement and everything. So it's nice to see that it's more and the number of bidders was very nice to see as well. So.
Councillor Neeb, go ahead, please.
Just in the same vein as Councillor Oak, it's great to see a local bidder on a number of different RFPs as well. It's great to see that the best price for pickup trucks is right here in Exeter.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's awesome to see. Is there any further discussion at all? Not seeing any, but call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Next item, please. 10.3.3.
The South Huron Council received the report from Shane Timmermans, Manager of Transportation Services, retender results for replacement of backhoe number 118 for mini excavator, and that South Huron Council accept the tender received from Advantage Farm Equipment and authorize the award of a contract for the supply mini excavator in the amount of $146,900, including HST.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Councillor Oak?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. The make of the unit, just wondering what kind of familiar with some of the other names, but this one is not as I'm not as familiar with. Warranty wise, is it similar to the other makes, Shane?
Mr. Timmermans?
Through your, Mayor Finch. Yes, it is. It actually does come with a really good warranty. They are, I would say, Wacker Nelson, you're correct. You don't see them quite as much as I'd say the top brands. But they're coming out strong. You are starting to kind of see more and more of them. But the warranty, yes, is right on with the top brands also.
Thank you. Councillor Oak.
Thank you, Shane. And this is just for the excavator. The the trailer that was part of this project, that's a separate tender, is it going to be?
Mr. Timmons?
Through you, Mayor Finch. Yes, that was done separately and that was purchased already with the updated procurement limits. That was able to be done with quotations.
Great, thank you for your answer. Deputy, go ahead.
Thank you, Shane. Extended warranty, is it worth purchasing or not? Have you done that before on other vehicles?
Mr. Timmermans?
Through you, Mayor Finch. Yes, we have done that. The last backhoe that was purchased, there was a 5-year warranty that was added on. This machine here actually already comes with 5-year warranty.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Very well. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you for that. 10.3.4.
This is a budget amendment. That South Huron Council received the report from Don Giberson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, retender results for Main Street North reconstruction, Ausable River to Walper Street, and that South Huron Council accept a tender received from Lavis Contracting Company, Inc., a limited, and authorize award of a contract for the Main Street North reconstruction, Ausable River to Walper Street, in the amount of $6,364,900.41, including HST. That South Huron Council approves an amendment to the budget to increase the 2024 capital budget for the Main Street North reconstruction, Ausable River to Walper Street, from $4,517,891 to $4,838,240. And the South Huron Council authorizes the transfer of $433,958 from the Transportation Services Capital Replacement Reserve to fund the additional tendered costs.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Councillor Wendy McLeod-Haig, go ahead, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking at the chart for the 2024 reconstruction part. At the end, it says developers oversizing contribution. Is there more than one developer or is it just sitting still with CBD?
Mr. Giberson?
Through you, Mayor Finch, there is one developer.
Follow up, go ahead.
Is there a signed agreement with CBD already and money in hand to start on their end?
Mr.
Through you, Mayor Finch, yes, there is a signed agreement and we have the money.
Thank you.
Very well. Deputy, you had something.
Just question or comment, I'm not sure where this goes, but storm sewers. Do we ever aerate storm sewers like we do municipal drains? I see a lot of storm sewers and they cost a lot of money. We have one going through Dashwood again this year. And when the drain goes through my farm, I have to pay for it. And I'm not saying we go to 100% of it, but I think, to me, I'd like to see something looked at that it's partly area rated. Because the people that use it, just like the farmers, they use the drain, they pay. So, thank you.
Question. Mr. Giberson, would you be able to comment on that? Would you be interested?
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. Yeah, that's a great idea. Many communities have converted to that type of funding for storm sewers. Currently, all the storm sewers are funded through the tax levy. So they're collected as part of the property tax. But many communities have switched from being a levy-based to being a user-based budget, where you're assessed your storm sewer based on the area of your property, if you have access to a storm sewer or not. So yes, that's definitely an idea that has a lot of validity.
Very good. Follow up, Deputy?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Don. Do you need a motion to follow up and staff bring a report back, or would that be done at a later time?
We can finish up this one here, but that's not a bad idea. I'll turn to Madam Clerk for process.
Yes, there is currently a motion on the table, so that would have to be dealt with first before any further motions.
So we'll just hold your thought on that. Any other questions on this current motion that's before us? Councillor Vaughn.
Yeah, I just, I look at this project and I see a number of significant risks in this project. It's a big one. It's a big project. It's bigger than we normally deal in any fiscal year. It's got a lot of moving pieces. It's had amendments to this project through resolution at the council table about 7 times. So when I first read the report, and I thank you for the report, Don, I saw a couple of risks to this project. One was the developer oversizing contribution. In terms of within the report, there was no mention of us having actually executed an agreement with the developer or that we actually had the money in hand. And I'm glad that my colleague here, Wendy, asked the question and Don indicated that we have got the money in the bank and that the developers have actually signed an agreement. And so from the agreement perspective, my question is that agreement something that will be shared with council, or will the highlights of that agreement be shared with council in terms of, I'm wondering about, you know, extra contingency, percentage, how that might be handled with the developer. So that's my first concern. And I could go on to the second, or would it be wise to have
Maybe
that
we'll
one
have the
dealt with
first one. Yeah.
first?
Mr. Giverson, would you be able to respond?
Through you, Mayor Finch, yes, the process is to award a contract, and then the agreement prepared by the municipal solicitor will be in a full report to council at the next council meeting. And all it'll be full disclosure of all the terms of this agreement.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Okay, thanks for that. And the other risk that was on my mind was when we had the budget presented to us back in the fall, we talked about this being a high priority project due to tight timelines with the MTO connecting funding agreement, and that the project itself was to be substantially completed by December 31st, 2024, and totally complete by March 31, 25. Now, the financial grids here actually do talk about a good portion of this project reconstruction happening in 2024 from a financial perspective, and that the top asphalt would be done in 2025. But there was no verbiage in terms of when in 2025 we were aiming, like, are we going to be consistent with what the MTO agreement actually had and meet this March 31 deadline? The reason I'm asking that question is I know that we live in Canada, and I know that asphalt is not typically put in place between January and March. And so I just want to have some assurances that we're not going to be in a situation where we cannot meet this March 31st, 2025 deadline because of weather or whatever unforeseen event, and that we run a risk of losing our funding, because this is $3 million piece of funding that I really want to make sure we do everything we can to protect.
Mr. Giverson.
Through you, Mayor Finch, I can absolutely assure you that this project will be substantially complete before the end of 2024 in accordance with the terms of our grant funding agreement. And if you look at the financials, the grant funding is for 90% of the eligible costs, which is essentially the storm sewer and the road work, up to a maximum of $3 million, which is completely achievable within the 2024 work. The agreement also has other provisions that funding, even though we have the deadline of March 31st, 2025, there are other provisions in this agreement that allow for completion of the final completion of the project at the end of 2025. The agreement terminates on March 31st, 2026. So we are well positioned and well covered to receive our full grant funding with how this project is laid out. We've also spoken to had conversations with the contractor and have at this point a draft schedule, which if this contract is awarded, if council recommends award of the contract tonight, before I leave this building, they will be notified and the engineer is waiting to prepare the contracts for signing. And this project will commence as of tomorrow. Shovels in the ground by towards the end of April. And we have a full draft schedule, Gantt chart, which is extremely unusual at this point in a project, with achieving substantial completion by the end of October. Allowing for weather, any adverse weather delays in this construction season, we have the buffer to complete the project to substantial, which is all underground, all surface work to base asphalt before the end of the year. And base asphalt, I've stood there Christmas Eve putting base asphalt down. So the way this contract has been structured, the tender document prepared, and we have a great contractor, local contractor who's more than capable of doing this project. I've got complete confidence that this is achievable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giverson. Councillor Oak, go ahead, please, and then back to Councillor Vaughn.
Yeah, just Don, thanks for your answers. Just a question. Most of the projects so far in 2024 are coming in under budget. Where's this one? Why is it over our budget amount sort of thing? Or where did it, or where is it that's driving it to be over?
Through you, Your Worship. Yeah, I like that question. When this budget was prepared, we did not include the additional cost for the developers oversizing. And we did not include, because that was not guaranteed, and we did not include cost for Huron County. So Huron County these are all a very fluid situation. At one time, the county did want to partner, and then there was a change of heart. They wanted to do their project separate. And then there was another change at the county, and there was interest again in doing something. So they are doing intersection improvements to the traffic signals, which are not part of our project. And they are also building a right turn lane on Thames Road by the Ford dealership. So it would be a eastbound in order so that we're not destroying any of the work. You don't have to modify any of the work that we were planning to do in just rebuilding Main Street heading north and south. So there's additional work that's been included with this project that was not part of the budget when the budget was prepared fall, late summer of 2023.
Councillor Oak, and then we'll go to Councillor Vaughn.
Yeah, just to follow up. Thanks, Don. And when you mentioned the intersection there, now are the county looking to do the sidewalks that they were talking about for accessibility down to Hanson's along Highway 83 at the same time while they're looking at this?
Mr. Giverson?
Through you, Mayor Finch. Yes, but it's the municipality's sidewalk. So yes, that's also included in the project, was included in the budget. So the improvements for accessibility, so the AODA compliance, so the county is responsible for the traffic signal, any AODA compliant upgrades for the traffic signals. The sidewalks will be ours, and they will be upgraded. And yes, we had not forgotten about the sidewalk extension from the northeast corner to go across to be able to walk to the parking lot of the actually to the entrance to Hanson's.
Thank you. Councillor Vaughn, do you have another comment or question?
Yes, I do. So, thank you, Don, for responding to Ted's question on the budget increase. So we have a cost, overrun of about $434,000. And you mentioned a couple of things there. You mentioned the, oversizing of the pipe being new, relatively new to this project, and also the county work at the intersection. So my question is, that additional 434,000 approximate dollars, where is that sourcing going to come from? Like,
Mr. Giverson?
the source of funds to pay for that going to come from?
Mr. Giverson?
Through you, Mayor Finch, it's outlined in the council resolutions.
I'm sorry? What is?
It's set out in the council resolutions that the additional $433,958 is recommended to be transferred from the Transportation Services Capital Replacement Reserve, resolution number 4.
Right. So that says to me that the South Huron taxpayers are going to be paying that cost overrun, not the county for additional work and not the oversizing.
Mr. Giverson? Would you? Microphone.
Through you, Mayor Finch, correct.
Follow up, Councillor Vaughn?
Well, then I don't understand why the overrun, I'm missing something.
Councillor Oak, maybe?
Yeah, I guess the way I understand it is like when you had the approved capital budget and then there's Huron County's contribution, there's the developer's contribution. And so the amount of the quotes are still 400,000 higher than that, over and above what we had budgeted for.
Mr. Giverson?
That is correct. The other thing through you, Mayor Finch. So the other thing I would point out is we do not control where the contractors put their money within a tender. So you will notice that the tender cost for the sanitary and storm are under budget. And you will also notice that the top asphalt for 2025 is also under budget. So this adjustment is to the 2024 budget only. The reduction in the 2025 budget will be part of the 2025 budget discussions. So there's a budget projection for 2025 of it's over $500,000, and the cost based on the tenders is under 400. So there's a further reduction in 2025.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
do.
Councillor.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because I'm just not getting it. And so, okay, so I look at this capital budget form, okay, back in the fall. And it's pretty clear in terms of different sources of funding. Now we're increasing the capital replacement reserve, and I'm kind of wondering, is the county not writing a check for any of this? So I'm kind of missing that. Where is that in here?
Mr. Giverson?
So through you, Mayor Finch.
Yeah.
The county is not writing us a check. The county will be invoiced, or they will be paying for their share of the project. The 100 and 120,000,
134, isn't it? in that table?
134,000. Oh, there we go. 134,194.92. And that is still currently an estimate based on the unit prices in the contract. So so we will spend the money initially, and then we will be reimbursed by the county.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. And so, thank you, Don, for the explanation that you gave us in terms of the timing. It sounded all very logical. And so I'm thinking, can we have a report that actually outlines what we're expecting on the timing? Because it wasn't in this report, and I'm just wondering if we can have it documented somehow. I don't want to be coming back to the council table asking the same questions over and over again. So I'm hoping that we can just get it all written down and work to that.
Councillor Oak, and then I'll go to,
Yeah, and yes, I agree with Councillor Vaughn. I assume the reason we don't have it in the report here, it depends on who wins the tender here, if we support it tonight or not. And then because each contractor probably has a different schedule, so it'll be based on Lavis, if they're the contract that gets approved tonight, they have their own schedule that they'll be providing.
Mr. Guyver, did you want to respond to that? And I'll go to Mr. Neal after.
Through you, Mayor Finch, I must say that's a highly unusual request. I've never had that request for any project that I've done for South Huron, and any project I've done for any municipality that I've worked for. And the information on schedules is already in the agreement that's been before council. And it's in the up notes, and it will be in the quarterly capital budget requests. So you're asking for something that is already provided to council over the course of the year.
Thank you. Councillor Neep.
I was just gonna speak about our quarterly capital progress reports, and that we do receive this information already. So that's all.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't just let that go. I don't think that's quite true, that we've never asked for information about how a capital project is going. What we get in the capital report is kind of like a one-liner. What we get in the operational reports is not for publication to the general public, whereas this report actually is. I probably wouldn't be so nervous if we hadn't written in our budget that if we're not done by March 31st, there's an issue. So I'm only asked the question to make me feel better about approving this project tonight to go forward. I don't see this as just a RFP. This is an RFP with many moving parts. And if we say yes to this tonight and we get on the phone immediately after this meeting and tell Lavis we're ready to go, well, we better be sure we're ready to go and that we don't have a significant risk. So all I'm asking for is a report that covers the risk questions that I brought up tonight, because it wasn't in the report so far.
Mr. Guyver, did you want to comment?
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. This report is a tender award report, and the tender award reports do not have the information that is being requested. All of the information that you're looking for on risk is contained within the agreement that was approved by council and executed last year. I can also tell you that our collective team, have spoken with Lavis. They provided information as late as noon today to reassure council that they are more than capable of doing this project. They have the resources to do so, have completed projects of similar magnitude, have the labor, equipment, the wherewithal, and the finances to do projects far larger than this one. They have produced a detailed Gantt chart of with their full construction schedule. So we have the assurances, as much as you're going to get, that they will land with their boots on as soon as they're notified the contract will be awarded. So even before you sign the contract, they are going to start the process of the shop drawing, preparation of the shop drawings to manufacture material, order materials based on council's approval to award the contract. So any suggestion that Lavis is suddenly going to change their mind is completely erroneous information. And they have bid a contract which has terms that bind them to completing this project by a specified date, or they suffer financial penalties. So we have nothing but good faith from Lavis. They have the assurances, produced a schedule. It doesn't matter what, if I do a council or staff does a council report for the next meeting outlining these dates, the contractor who's the low bid on this project has provided more information than what is normally provided on any tender project. And as outlined in the report, the magnitude of the work that needs to be substantially complete by the end of this year will achieve the full amount of the MTO Connecting Link grant. And all the other pieces to complete the project and complete the terms of the agreement will all fall in place in 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Guybers, and very well explained. And again, we're dealing with this actual motion here tonight. Are there any other questions related to this motion that we can, Councillor Wendy McCulloch.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Don, I haven't been here for one of these big projects like this before. So I'm just looking for, hypothetically, if it does not get completed with the December 24 date or the final completion by March 21st, and we lose that $3 million grant, then what?
Mr. Garberson.
Through you, Mayor Finch. Well, if the sky falls, I never like to deal in hypotheticals. But if you're looking for assurances for projects of this magnitude, the first thing I will advise council, this is one of the smaller projects that I have personally been involved in. I have personally managed jobs that were 10 times this size. Even at South Huron, this is not the largest project that South Huron has done. The Exeter Hensel pipeline was a $14 million project from over 10 years ago. So there are always contingencies. So within this agreement, if we find an absolute disaster on our hands and we are delayed reaching substantial completion this year, if that happens, which would be worse for the residents because we will not have a paved road through Main Street in Exeter. But there are provisions to request an extension, which all you have to do is look across the border to Lambton Shores. They have had several. If there was a reason they could not get a project moving, there were approval delays and you couldn't start a project. That's how they were able to manage the risk in losing the grant. We are in the enviable position. We have a fully engineered, fully approved project. We have met the conditions of the agreement. We've already completed our Indigenous consultation, satisfactory to the province. It's been tendered. We have a low bidder who's quite very competent, capable contractor. So there is no technical reason and there's no approval reason to delay the start of this project. We are simply waiting for like award of contract, but basically a break in the weather. So if it stops snowing, the asphalt will be removed to start this project towards the end of April. But if we run into absolutely horrible weather, some unforeseen condition, that's would be the backup plan. And I never do anything without a backup plan. And I mean, I don't do anything. And a backup plan will always have another fallback position. So we can apply for an extension if there's a reason that we cannot achieve these deadlines. And even within the agreement, there's a back end date of March 31st, 2026, when this agreement expires. So there's more room, more things that are available to us, even within the agreement. But if we can't achieve those milestone dates, then that would be the first option available to us. And that would be justification to the MTO as well, that there's conditions beyond our control.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just one follow-up question. If we have to ask for an extension, are there any ramifications to us percentage-wise on what we would potentially lose as part of the grant?
Through you, no, the terms and conditions set out in the agreement are that we have to act in good faith. We have to, the costs have to be eligible cost as defined under the agreement. So there are costs such as like the water main and sanitary sewer are not eligible costs. There's a few others, purchase of property, purchase of equipment. So there's within the agreement, there is a list of costs that are not eligible. So the agreement is structured that the municipality will receive 90% of the eligible cost up to the 3 million. And our tendered cost for those eligible components is already approaching 3.6 mil.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a Councilor Need.
And thank you, Don, for the report. I think one thing that I'm keeping in the back of my mind about all of this is the percentage of the costs that we have covered through this grant, which is significant. This Main Street construction project has been forecasted years ago. This is something that has been ongoing, that we know needs to be done in the town of Exeter. So it's fantastic that we're able to get it underway. I think it's also positive too that with changes, we're getting the information ahead of time about the financial differences now as opposed to after the fact. So thank you very much, Don, and for your staff for bringing that forward. I think ultimately, once the project's done, it's going to make a positive impact on the municipality.
Great, thank you. Mr. Giverson, go ahead. You have the last word.
Through you, Mayor Finch, I also wanted to advise council that the MTO has already advanced us 1.5 mil on this project. So we already have that money in the bank and the 630,000 from the developer.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Councilor McLeod. Thank you.
Sorry, I just believe that Councillor Vaughn has a follow-up question. If this is a vote, if this is a big amount, so she should be able to.
Councilor Vaughn, you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question, but I never said anything about Lavis construction in a negative way or ability to handle this project in any way, shape or form. I just like that to be on the record.
Okay, that's very well. Thank you. Any other questions at this point? Not seeing any. We have a mover and a seconder. Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. We'll circle back to Deputy Mayor. You had a comment about the storm sewers in this discussion.
It's been so long, I forgot about it. Yes, I guess I don't know where to go, but I'd like to make a motion that we for staff to bring back a report on the storm sewers and being area rated and how we go about that. I just think it's important because, everybody needs to, bring their share to the table.
Always good to have a discussion. I'll leave it to Madam Clerk to get something prepared here.
That South Huron Council directs staff to bring back a report regarding storm sewer user rates, and process to proceed with same.
So moved. Go ahead.
So moved, but could we maybe put the word in area rate? Does that work better? I don't know.
Yep, that's fine. And we'll just have her read that in a moment, just so we're clear on it.
Just wondering about a friendly amendment. Could it,
Okay, yeah, so he's just, before we go to a seconder, we want to have the motion actually correct, and then we'll go to a seconder.
That South Huron Council directs staff to bring back a report regarding storm sewer area rates and the process for implementing same.
Thank you, yes.
So moved. Councillor Oak, you'll second that?
yeah, I second it, and just a friendly amendment. I wondered if the report could come back to a committee of the whole. Just add a committee of the whole so we could have
Yep.
as part of a committee, a future committee of the whole.
Deputy, you concur with
Yes,
that?
I'm
Thank
good
you.
with that.
That's where we're at. And are you ready then at this point?
That South Huron Council directs staff to bring back a report to a future committee of the whole regarding storm sewer area rates and the process to implement same.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Okay, moving right along to 10.3.5.
That South Huron Council received the report from Don Giberson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, REIT 2024 Housing Enabling Water System Fund Grant Funding Program. And that South Huron Council confirms that the London Road South Trunk Sanitary Sewer from Mary and Waterloo Street to the Snyder Crescent Sewage Pumping Station is a top priority growth-related project for the 2024 Housing Enabling Water System Fund Grant Funding Program. And that South Huron Council confirms that if the grant application is successful, the municipal portion of the project will be funded through external borrowing.
And a mover, Councillor Neebs moves that, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? See, Councillor Neebs, you have a question? Go ahead.
Well, just more of a comment. I think this is extremely positive, especially if we can get the full 73%. And we've been talking a lot as council over the last few years about enabling more housing of all different types. And so it's incredibly important that we have the proper infrastructure in the ground to make that happen. And again, with the projections, Huron County population projections that we have coming down, it makes sense. And this is a timely application.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I don't know how this project became a priority for our municipality at all. I don't even see it on the 10-year projection with our budget. And all of a sudden, a grant comes out of friggin' nowhere. And we have a report before us telling us or asking us to make this a priority project so that we can meet a deadline of a grant. Reference in the report about 2,100 potential homes on London Road. All of this is kind of new stuff. I'm not prepared to say we're going to go into debt anymore for if we build it, it will come kind of project. And I'm sorry, but that's exactly what I see this project to be. we haven't had a discussion about this 2,100 potential homes south on London Road at all at council. I had to sort of step back and go, where the heck did this come from? Out of nowhere it came. There may be members of council that think this is a terrific idea, but it puts us in more debt. It's not a priority project. We've never even talked about it before. And we also have been talking about priority projects from the perspective of we've got a fire hall that we really want to do something with. We haven't even, as far as I know, put our recreation debts into a bona fide debenture going forward. We had a debt management policy that we put on the books last year, and I have no understanding of how the priority projects we've already identified, plus the rec center projects, plus potentially this project, are going to impact our debt management policy. So just because the province has given a more housing kind of grant is not a reason in my mind to approve this project in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Guybers, did you want to have a comment? Oh, go ahead, Ms. Masua Colson, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Finch. And we brought this forward because it is a grant that did come up and for council consideration as far as even putting the application in. As far as that goes, it is totally up to council. We just had the application and there was a project that was possible and it is in the master plans, and it was because of the funding was 75%. As far as if successful, I believe that there's actually two different intakes, or there is this intake and then we may possibly make another cut. But it's just brought forward to council, and as far as if council was interested in exploring it further, if council was successful, this would come back again. This isn't saying that council needs to proceed with that project. It's for the application to see. Okay.
Councillor Neeb.
I think too, just to point out, in our official plan, the areas that we're talking about are already zoned for residential development. I think too, if we're successful in the application based on the report, we're going to receive 8 million in order to put infrastructure in the ground. Yes, at a cost of 2 million. And yes, we didn't talk about this being a priority, but we did talk about planning for and managing sustainable growth. We also talked about infrastructure investment and asset management. And I think this feeds into that as well by having more housing, fulfilling the social needs that we've identified as a council. We've talked about housing multiple times. Unfortunately, I believe that means we have to make some investments. And if we're able to get this funding, bully for us. That's my take.
And even if we did get the funding or were approved, we could turn it down. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So there's no decisions being made tonight as far as the approval of the funding or it's going to go.
No, but there is a decision as to whether or not council would like staff to apply, and if not, then we would proceed.
So this is an application as described. Go ahead, Councillor Oak.
Just a quick question to follow up on Councillor Vaughn's comments there. The cost is $8 million ish, $6 million potential grant, $2 million. How would that turn out, Rebecca? Any high level to look at what it would mean for our debt level between it and if we were to explore, you know, potentially a fire hall or whatever, where we would be with our debt level scenario? And you know, I know the recommendation was putting it on a long-term debenture with Infrastructure Ontario, but I'm not sure that we'd be able to maybe meet our 10% number by 2030. We might have to shorten that window on any debt commitment on that part or the payment amount. But have you looked at potentially what that might mean?
Ms. Basula Colson?
Through the mayor, I know the treasurer would wrap my knuckles on maybe providing any kind of response to that, other than to say that at a very high level, it is feasible, but depending on, so that grant is for, is it 73%? But that's up to. So I mean, whatever would come back, it might be 50%. And then it might be that council will decide, no, that's not even something that council is interested in. So it's hard to say, but at a very high level, it is feasible depending on what a fire, there's a lot of variables.
Follow up and then I'll go to deputy.
Yeah, so thank you. So, you know, in my mind, the only way we're going to be able to do some of these projects is if we get upper tier government helping us with these projects. So I'm in support of at least applying and seeing where it goes, and then we can have further discussion at that point. But I know some of these projects that need to be done down the road here, especially in the south part of the town of Exeter, we're going to need some upper level of government help to move them forward. And so we've got to take advantage at least looking at these grant opportunities.
Deputy, go ahead, please.
And I agree, this is a lot of money just to turn down and say we're not going to do it. We can always turn it down if we ever get the grant. This is no guarantee. This is just an application. So I'm in favor of moving forward with the application.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McLeod-Haggett.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, going off of what Councillor Neeb was saying, when you were listing all of the stuff in the priority settings, to me, the one thing that you always seem to keep missing is living within our means. Our debt level, I'm not an accountant, but I'm pretty sure is pretty extensive. And we have to look at what our upcoming projects are, what they're needed, and work on completing the projects that are already within the priority settings. And we have our upcoming priority settings for this year coming up. So this could be a further discussion throughout that as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 6. Thank you very much. Next item, please, 10.4.1.
The South Huron Council receives a report from Julia Warwick, Director of Financial Services Treasurer, read 2023 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses.
And a mover, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carries with 7. 10.4.2, please.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Julia Warwick, Director of Financial Services Treasurer, read information on bids and tenders procurement platform for information.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just like to thank, I'm not sure if Julie is online, but if just thank her for putting this together. Yeah, we hear a lot of things about the cost of signing up for bids and tenders, and when I see the numbers, it's not as expensive as I thought it was for somebody that wanted to bid all across. I'm not sure if it's Ontario or Canada wide, but $34 a month, or for unlimited bidding, which is a little over $400 a year. If I guess it's not as cost prohibitive as some would lead me to believe. So thank you, Julia, for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Oak. Thank you again, Julia. Good report. Any other questions from members of council? Okay, not seeing any. Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Next item, please.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Alex Wolf, Acting Clerk, reappoint engineer under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for the Ballantyne Municipal Drain. And the South Huron Council hereby appoints William J. Dietrich, Piang, from Dietrich Engineering Limited as a municipal drainage engineer to prepare a report for the repair and improvement of the Ballantyne Municipal Drain.
And a mover, please. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. 10.4.4.
That South Huron Council receives a report of Alex Wolf, Acting Clerk, Old Methodist Cemetery, Site 01606, and that South Huron Council directs staff to proceed with the transfer of responsibility of the Old Methodist Cemetery, Site 01606, including all funds, investments, accounts, and land from the Kirkton United Church and Kirkton Methodist Cemetery Board to the municipality of South Huron.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carries with 7. Thank you. Madam Clerk, any notice of the motion you're aware of?
There are none.
Thank you. And then 12.1. So any discussion on 12.1? Councillor Neeb?
Thank you, Mayor Finch. And I'm fully in favor with moving forward with sending this correspondence on. As the closure of the detachment has been an ongoing concern of mine and the people within Exeter. I'm reminded of the commitment that Western Regional OPP Chief Superintendent John Kane said in 2018 at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Huron County-wide detachment. He stated that the closed offices, and I'm quoting, in Wingham and Exeter would be replaced with smaller storefront police offices. He further stated that this would provide an area for the officers to go and meet the public in that community so that everyone within Huron County would not have to come to Clinton if they wanted to see an officer. So far, we've heard nothing from our partners in the OPP about opening up the storefront office that was committed to our taxpayers. I think that ultimately, as I've said numerous times in the past, our OPP partners must follow through on their commitment. As part of our contract with the OPP is responsible for providing its own space. We received requests in the past to allow carte blanche access to our fire halls, which we denied. And I cited the downloading of provincial costs onto our taxpayers as my primary concern for voting against the proposal. Our taxpayers pay over $2 million in policing costs, and closing the detachment was unwise. We are a growing municipality with over 10,000 residents. If our latest population projections communicate anything, is that our growth will require adequately funded facilities for public services that operate within our municipality. It is ludicrous for a municipality our size to not have a detachment and public access to the OPP services that we pay for. So I believe that is important for us as a council to endorse this message, as we in turn must hold the OPP accountable to their promise.
Thank you. So you'll move that then?
Yes.
Is there a seconder for that, please? There's no seconder. Very well. Seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Okay, so now we have on the floor, any further discussion? Councillor Dietrich, do you have any comment at all? Go ahead. Just turn your mic on, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 questions. I want to know, what benefit is it to Ward 1 and Ward 3? And what's it going to cost?
This is a motion, or sorry, this is just a letter to the Solicitor General.
Right.
Regarding that there be an independent third-party investigation into the justification and process regarding the closure of the OPP detachments in Exeter and Wingham. That's all it is. There's no cost to this. Okay, does that make sense? If you just turn your mic on, please. Okay, go ahead with that.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me, but I'll accept it.
Okay, so any other comments at this point? Okay, I'm going to leave the chair and make some points here. Jeopardy. Oh, sorry, Ms. McLeod-Hagan, go ahead, please.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, in reviewing the mayor's proposed letter, I want to point out the following. You note that there was no public consultation with respect to the closing of the Exeter and Wingham detachments. We need to recognize that public consultation is necessary, and I hope that us around the table can use this as a learning tool going forward. There are times when something is said in the moment as a plan that is going to be implemented, but as I have noticed that even within our own municipality, what is said as a plan is not always what is implemented. When one makes a public statement, the public takes it with absolute confidence. It is quoted in the Times Advocate article dated June 29th, 2020, significant improvements in technology made the closure of Exeter and Wingham offices possible. South Huron is in the process of seeking grant money for a new recreation center project. The municipality has plans to install a community policing office in the new building, which I understand you voted no to, Mr. Mayor. Why would you comment that they can use space in this proposed facility? It would still fall on the taxpayers. In your letter to the commissioner dated July 31st, 2020, you say it should not be the responsibility of the acting detachment commander to come up with a solution when clearly the decision-making is outside of his control. We all know that things are said from individuals of power, but are not always followed through with. We also have to remember that since March of 2020, when COVID basically shut the world down, so many things have changed and technology has changed how the world is run today. July 19th, 2021 council meeting, after a July 13th recommendation from the Police Service Board to allow police officers to use the fire station in South Huron for washrooms and office use, was met with an empathetic no from council with a 5-1 vote, with Deputy Mayor Dietrich being the one vote in favor and Councillor Oak not being present. To show how times have changed with modern technology, 7.8 Committee of the Whole, June 28, 2021, minutes recommendation number 2, that the CAO be authorized to change the staffing complement to reflect a new IT staff position to support the organization's ongoing IT needs and modernization initiatives. I know this has nothing to do with policing, but it goes to show that even council around the table know that times are changing. At the council meeting dated August 14th, 2023, the chair of the Police Service Board confirmed that the OPP would not be providing a funded CSP in South Huron. Once again, council declined the request for officers to use the South Huron Fire Hall. Councillor Neeb commented on the liability of access. He values the partnerships and strengthening with the agencies that work in the municipality. He later states that providing blanket access to the fire hall without providing our fire chief with unconditional flexibility to say no. I think that ultimately it is the fire chief's prerogative to provide access on a case-by-case basis. Yet this was not further investigated as an option. Councillor Neeb just asked for the recommendation to be removed. Councillor Oak commented as chair for the Fire Service Advisory Committee that out of the tour they had with the stations on what might move forward with the master fire plan, he commented that in Milverton, the OPP uses space in their fire halls being the training room, and the residents there are happy with the arrangements due to the visibility. Councillor Oak also noted that our fire chief commented that he would like to see something like this happen. Our own fire chief recommended this with his support and asks that it be explored to see if it would work. In your draft proposed letter, you state during this time the Huron OPPs have asked to acquire free space in our fire halls and town hall, which is not realistic, nor is it sustainable. It is demeaning to the dedicated officers who were searching for a bathroom, a place to take a break, or meeting with the public. You say that it was demeaning as to the dedicated officers, but let me remind you, you voted no both times. One would think that it would have made more sense to work with them and not against them. Instead, other areas within South Huron have stepped up to assist the OPP. Well, we can continue to state that we are disappointed with the current situation, but I don't see that we will ever see what Mayor Finch is asking for. Times have changed and we all need to move forward and work in a direction of creating a great partnership opportunity with increased OPP presence in South Huron.
So just to clarify, are you saying I said no to the rec center where they could have the office in there?
Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, if you voted no against expanding the rec center further to have the other rooms.
No, I was in full favor of a single ice pad with the OPP station and a gymnasium, a walking track and all sorts of amenities. I was against a double ice pad.
Okay, my apologies.
No problem. I will take the podium, and Mr. Dietrich, if you could take the chair, please. So first of all, this letter, this review that I've done, All it is, it lists all the details that have happened since November 30th, 2018. It's all before you. I'm not going to go through it all again. But I'm asking for it, it's recommended that an independent third-party investigation is warranted into the justification and process regarding the closure of these OPP facilities. And the reason I say that, it's all listed in the review, and there's links in there also. The chief superintendent made the comments, and we fully rely on him. Like the chief superintendent, when I was policing, in my days of policing, when the chief superintendent or anyone in a commission positions made a statement, you relied on that to be factual. There was no pussyfooting around there. That was the way it was, and you took his word as gospel. And I'm sure that his comments brought confidence and comfort to every resident that the OPP's representative would not make these comments lightly. I think that's very important to remember too. And with the commitment, it leaves one to understand that the storefront offices would also be a part of an overall resource strategy for all of Huron County, since each municipality would benefit. He cannot make the commitment unless the OPP pays for it, since we do not take orders from the OPP in how we invest our tax dollars. And again, his comments likely cushion the impact of the public, making the closures more palatable. But what I find interesting is that there's been not any justifiable reason given why the OPP closed the Exeter and Wingham detachments in the first place, other than they're no longer required. These were actual reporting locations where officers would report to start and finish their shifts, where the public could meet with an officer in private to discuss their concerns. You just can't close a reporting location and state to the public they'll receive the same service. That just doesn't make any sense. An Exeter detachment is very similar to what the current Lucan detachment is. The very fact that the OPP is using the same reasons to open a satellite office in North Huron are the same reasons I gave them at Roma in 2019 to not close both offices in the first place. The one thing they did not say in their statement to North Huron is to include a space for the public to meet with an officer, but that is what the chief superintendent committed to in 2018. And the OPP states the North Huron space will provide officers with restroom facilities. And that's what I said to them in 2019. It also will provide space as the office space would have a secondary effect of enhancing police presence, which is what I said. You don't want everybody reporting to Clinton and then trying to race down here to respond to calls. I also said it would improve efficiency in the police response of that into that part of the county. That's what I said. So they're saying the same things I said, but it's been 5 years. So those are the facts. So folks, this is what strategic provincial downloading looks like from a Crown corporation. So don't be surprised in a few years, the OPP may be looking for a space to meet with the public, and the lower tier will be expected to provide a space. And I'm confident that none of us are that gullible or naive to believe that the stations were no longer required as stated in the June 11th, 2020 news release, as they've been trying to get into our fire halls all this time. Like I said, they now have space in North Huron. When they built the new Clinton office, they closed the existing Highway 21 main office and simply transferred the staff. There was no reason to close the Exeter and Wingham detachments. We already pay approximately $2 million a year in contract costs alone. Why would we want to take on this responsibility of a police station by ourselves? Can you imagine the cost of that? Other municipalities should be sharing in that cost. So I'm just seeking your support to send a unified message to the Solicitor General for an investigation as indicated. The public will expect and demand that we continue this discussion. There's no cost for us to do so, and really, that's what true leadership is about. Noelville, Ontario is also facing closure and are advocating for the safety of the public while protecting the tax base from provincial downloading. And remember, it was the OPP's highest officials who do not provide frontline service themselves. They rely on the frontline officers to do that, who without public consultation unilaterally closed 2 perfectly good police stations in a single month, had committed to providing satellite offices and failed to do so, later stating that they are no longer required. Then come to us shortly afterwards asking us for free space when we find out there was no authority to make the commitment of a satellite office in the first place. Makes no sense. There should have been proper collaboration. There simply was no intention to provide a space. So this, I'm not ready to sell for good enough for our people, for our public, when there's still a commitment to be honored, and the public deserves the best service possible. This past week is just a sample of how our society has changed on the Main Street when it was shut down and the tactical unit was there. So I stand by my comments that the OPP should be providing a station for us. And even on February 14th, I believe it was, Warden McNeil even spoke to CTV News about the $4 billion gap in the amount of downloading that's going on. So to me, it's very straightforward. All I'm asking for is, like I said in the memo here, that an independent third-party investigation is warranted into the justification process regarding the closure of these OPP facilities. It doesn't cost you anything, and the public will demand it and expect that we'll follow through on this. That's my observations. Thank you. Any other comments at all? Counselor Dietrich?
Now, just for clarification, you're just putting in a request to the whoever. And at the end of the day, if they're not going to cooperate with our way of thinking or your way or whoever, the case is closed, it's off the books.
We just send it to the Solicitor General. If they wish to do an investigation, that's up to them. If they don't, we can't tell them what to do. I'm just saying, I'm recommending that there should be an investigation. Does that make sense?
Well, for now,
Okay.
but somehow or another, I don't think down the road, we're done with this.
Well, would you like to see, I guess the question is, do you want to see a police station back in Exeter or the area?
Like I said before, what advantage is it to Ward 1 and Ward 3? And what's it going to cost?
Well, the response times, that's what I'm saying. So they could be responding from Clinton. They right now have the Exeter, the South Huron Hospital and a spot at the high school, but they can't allow the public in to see them there.
Okay. Just as long as they're covering the cost with what we're already paying them.
Yeah, there's no change to this. This is just a request to have them investigated. That's all.
Very well. Thank you.
Councillor Oak?
Thanks, Mayor. Just a clarification on this letter. What is this any different than what the delegation that we had with the Solicitor General? I guess when you brought up this and provided him information the day that there was a delegation at Roma. So we've already brought it to his attention. So I'm just wondering why we're sending this letter as well.
So we met with him in January, correct? And new information came forward on February 14th and February 28th, and also the impact that
And have we seen that as a council? I haven't seen any of that information that
I spoke to at the last council meeting.
but we haven't seen it though, as communication back to council.
There's on here, February 28th correspondence from the commissioner.
Yes, but this is in your letter saying that you got it, but is it in here as well? Maybe I just misread it, sort of thing. So thank you.
Let's take a look here again. If you look under 12.3, it should show it there. Do you see it there? Or 12.1, sorry.
I have your letter pulled up here.
Okay. Do you see the commissioner's comments?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's that correspondence. And
Okay,
then
thank
prior to
you.
that, on February 14th.
I read that.
believe it
Thank you.
was. Okay. Any other questions? Deputy, go ahead.
Thank you. I just, I see us as a municipality, we are probably getting more policing and more tires on the road now than we ever did before. I understand about having the building here. I've had discussions with this gentleman. I've had discussions with John Kane. Had discussions with the inspector. They seem to think that everything is fine with the new computers and that stuff. They're on the roads instead of sitting in an office. They have the school, which they said is working very well. I have a letter from the principal to the inspector. They're sitting or able to use the hospital, which to me is a great location. There's presence there. So I can't support this. This has been going on long enough. And to me, it needs to come to an end. They're not going to come here. We know they're not coming back unless we're going to pay. And that's exactly what North Huron's doing. They're paying. And if we want to pay, then they will probably come back and put a storefront in with a sign up. Thank you.
So they said they weren't going to come back in 2020 and they're back at the hospital and the high school though. The officers still need to use a washroom, take a break. The one thing they're missing here is not being able to meet with the public. And if you notice, we've got an agenda item on here, 15.2 talks about the police presence. So the public is talking to me quite regularly about it. A lot of people are very upset they left without any public consultation. So I think in the best interest here, all I'm asking for in this letter is to have an independent third-party investigation is warranted into the justification and process regarding the closure of these OPP station, facilities. That's it. Whether they bring a detachment back or not, or whatever it might look like, that's up to them. We can't direct them. However, we can certainly represent the public to our best ability. And as I said earlier, the public deserves the best quality police service. So I'll be asking for a recorded vote. Thank you. Any other comments at this time? Councillor Dietrich.
Thank you. I agree with the deputy mayor. I think if you have an attachment in Exeter, you're not going to get the travel out in the wards. Like I see quite a few OPP out traveling. In fact, I seen them one day. I didn't want to see them, but anyway, that happens. So I'm just kind of wondering if just which route we should be going. Anyway, thank you.
Anyways, this is, like I said, this is just a recommendation to have an investigation warrant is warranted into the justification and process. That's it. It's right on the letter. So any other questions then? I'll turn it over to Madam Clerk for the recorded vote.
So that South Huron Council endorsed the sending of Mayor Finch's March 18th, 2024 correspondence regarding an independent third-party investigation being warranted into the justification and process regarding the closure of the OPP facilities to the Ontario Solicitor General. Is that your motion? Yes. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Dietrich, and Mayor Finch called for a recorded vote. Councillor Vaughn?
No.
Councillor Dietrich?
No.
Councillor Neeb?
Yes.
Councillor McLeod Haggett?
No.
Mayor Finch?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dietrich?
No.
And Councillor Oak?
No.
That motion is defeated 2-5.
Very well. We move on to the next item then. 13, any new business? Are we aware of? Moving on to 14, Mayor and Councillor comments and announcements. Are there any at this point? Anything? Nothing? Deputy, go ahead.
Just, tomorrow night will be our last PSP board meeting for South Huron. April 1st, the new law is supposed to come in and the detachment board will hopefully get started. And we'll see where that goes. So I would like to thank all the members that sat on the PSB board over the years, which are a lot of them. All of the inspectors that have sat on the boards. I know it's been an experience. I know we have one in the audience that sat on it. So I just want to thank everyone that was involved.
Yep, thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, not seeing any. I don't really have a lot at this point. Ms. 15, we're going on to items 15 for communications then. Ms. Masuda Carlson, please.
Okay. 15.1. 15.2.
Paul.
15.3.
Poll.
15.4. 15.5.
Hold that.
15.6. 15.7. 15.8. 15.9. 15.10.
Paul.
15.11.
Hold that.
15.12. 15.13. 1514, 1515.
Very well. To first one, 15.2. Councillor Neeb, go ahead, please.
No, I just want to thank all of the people who signed a petition and raised their voices about the issues of police presence in South Huron. I know there's a lot more who did not sign the petition who have concerns, and I think it's important that council be aware of that moving forward.
Yep, thank you very much for that. Any other comments? Okay, 15.3, Councillor McLeod-Haggett.
I would say that we should support this. It brings great number of individuals into our community that helps to give back, and the work that they did last year at the Trivet Church with their project with the Gaia was amazing. Working in the office beside that church, the traffic flow was quite substantial, and it was nice to see the different age demographics that were coming in and enjoying this. So I'm looking forward to having this here and seeing what it brings to our community.
And so we need a resolution on that. Madam Clerk, are you ready for that?
So that South Huron Council support Huron Waves Music Festival's application to My Main Street Community Activator Program and direct staff to provide a letter of support for same.
So moved. Seconder, please. Councillor Oak, any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. And the next item, we're going to 15.4. Councillor Neeb, go ahead, please.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Finch. This is a link to a notice about the Building Infrastructure Safely Act. And we've had discussions in the past about Enbridge asking the government to increase costs for municipalities in regards to locates. So I was hoping that maybe if Don was around, he could maybe give a comment, but I'm not sure if he's online or.
Ms. Masood Carlson, could you comment?
I could maybe comment. I know Don would do better, but so this is just actually closing the loop. Council did support in 2023 an AOR's, like the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors resolution, asking for the province to reconsider this because it would cost and it would increase our costs for construction, having to pay for locates. So this is just closing the loop and saying that the province did pass, has reached royal assent, that there is no charging for third-party locates. So this is a time when all these resolutions did actually work.
Very good.
Yep.
Good to hear. 15.5 and ask for that to be pulled. We have a mover for that. Councillor Neeb, seconder. Councillor Dietrich, any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. 15.10, Councillor Neeb.
Thank you, Mayor Finch. So this is related to the Ontario Heritage Act and the proposed changes that took place a few years ago. So in the Heritage Committee, we've had some discussion in regards to the Ontario Heritage Act during our orientation a few months back. In particular, this issue came up about listed properties being automatically removed off of the list unless they were designated, and then they would not be able to be relisted again for 5 years. So the benefits of listing a property would be it's not quite a designation, but it does prevent properties from being heritage properties from being demolished. So this resolution asks the province to extend from 2 years to 3 years, so a further year to allow municipalities and heritage advisory committees the time to go out and speak to residents about the benefits of designating a property. So this is just we're asking the province to extend the listing from 2 years to 3. And if they listen, that could benefit some of the listed properties. In South Huron, we do have a few listed properties that are not currently designated. I believe there might be some that are on some residents that might be on the fence. So this could further allow more time for the committee to build a relationship with those residents and investigate designation. So I'd like to make a motion to support that resolution.
So moved and seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. 15.11. Ask for that to be pulled. I'll just turn to Ms. Sue Carlson for comment on that.
Hey, this is becoming a theme, actually. Lots of resolutions coming forward from different municipalities requesting more funds for infrastructure. And so this is the background is province has agreed to assume responsibility for Gardner Expressway at Don Valley Parkway for Toronto. So we're basically, this resolution here is supporting that the province upload from local municipalities responsibility of costs associated with the continued constructions for MTO, or if uploading is not preferred option, then to fairly and equitably allocate resources to Ontario municipalities.
Deputy, you have a comment?
I would move it.
I figured you would. Seconder, Counselor Need, any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That carries a 7. Thank you. Ms. Masuda Carlson, recommendation, please.
That South Huron Council receive communication items not otherwise dealt with.
And a mover, please. Moved by Counselor Neeb, seconded by Counselor McLeod Haggett. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carries a 7. Thank you. No closed session, therefore no reporting from closed session. And 18.1, please.
That South Huron Council gives first, second, third, and final reading to bylaw 18/2024, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a limiting distance agreement between Great Lakes Family Farms, Inc., Mildred Desjardins, and the Corporation of the Municipality of South Huron for the properties legally described as North Half, Lot 4, Concession B, Stephen, being all of PIN 412490066, and Part Lot 4, Concession B, Stephen, as in R 151371, subject to life interest in R 101865, being all of PIN 412490067 in the municipality of South Huron, County of Huron.
And a mover, please. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Counselor Oak. Any discussion? Deputy?
Thank you. What does life interest mean?
Do you want to take that, please?
Through the mayor, I believe it's as long as that person is alive, they have an interest in the property. I know Wendy's nodding her head, so I'm thinking I answered that okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carries with 7. Thank you. 18.2.
That South Huron Council gives first, second, third, final reading to bylaw 19/2024, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 69/2018 of the municipality of South Huron for lands described as Lot 3, Less Highway Part, lots 2 and 4, subject to right of way over 22R 5241, parts 1, 2, 3, and 5, concession LRE, Stephen Ward, municipality of South Huron.
And a mover, please. Moved by Counselor Vaughn, seconded by Counselor McLeod Haggett. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carries with 7. Thank you. 19, please.
Let South Huron Council give first, second, third, and final reading to bylaw 20/2024, being a bylaw to confirm matters addressed at the March 18th, 2024 council meeting.
And a mover, please. Counselor Dietrich, seconded by Counselor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carries with 7. Thank you. And go ahead.
Let South Huron Council hereby adjourns at 8:48 PM to meet again on April 2nd, 2024 at 6 PM or at the call of the chair.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Counselor Neeb. No discussion. Call the question, all in favor?